Good evening, everyone. I'm Laura Ingraham. This is the Ingraham Angle from Washington tonight. President Trump suddenly changes plans overseas as we learn about a new plot to kill him. The details coming out. But first, the bosses eject Platner. That's the focus of tonight's angle. Now, we knew it was only a matter of time when the entire weight of the Democrat Party establishment decided it was time for Graham Platner to go. It took all of, 3.5 days to get him to step aside.
I have faced some very serious allegations, and I just want to make it clear. This is all false. The things that have been claimed did not happen. It's not real. We are suspending campaign operations.
Democrats really want us all to believe that the rape allegation made by his former girlfriend was what brought them to their epiphany that Platner needed to drop out. But we all know that's just party gloss. They knew about the other alleged victims as well a month ago, along with the other seedy parts of his past. And the simple matter is that they didn't care. Because Platner was strong on the stump, though, and had working-class appeal, he was their best bet against Susan Collins. And Democrat voters bought his resume lock, stock, and barrel. He knows what it's like to wake up at 4 in the morning. He knows what we're going through, voters said. And the media spin worked beautifully until it didn't. And when Platner's bio started to wear thin, his numbers started dropping, which is when someone in charge in the party decided it was time to force the Oystermen experiment to end with an 11th-hour rape allegation. Politico ran the bombshell report. CNN picked up the baton.
Did Graham Platner rape you?
By definition, yes. Absolutely.
Within hours, several prominent Democrats had already bailed on him. So whether the voters of Maine wanted him to withdraw, whether they found the late campaign hit credible or not, in the end, it didn't matter. Now, if this sounds a little familiar to you, it's because it is.
Look, if we finally beat Medicare.
After Biden's disastrous Trump debate, party bigwigs leapfrogged the normal process and forced him out. 2 years ago, it was George Clooney in the New York Times that got the ball rolling. This time, it was an exclusive in Politico. Now, as sleazy as Platner is, Platner knew darn well what the party leadership was plotting.
I'm not trying to dictate to anyone who it should be or how we get there, but I will say this. It needs to be open, transparent, and democratic. It needs to be reflecting the will and the values of the people that built this movement. The people in D.C. need to stay in D.C. Decisions should not be made in back rooms by people in places of political power. Party apparatchiks are not the ones to make these decisions.
In 2028, to save us all time, instead of just having primaries, the Democrats should just let the New York Times editorial board, let them tell us who their nominees are going to be. Instead of all this drama surrounding the debates, just ask Democrat big donors and celebrity boosters to announce the names. Think of all the money on travel we'll all save. The party that promised to save us and save our democracy from Donald Trump continues to steamroll democracy because of Donald Trump. So rather than trying to work on a set of policies to help working people, they insult them by picking their candidates for them. As things stand today, Democrat primary voters should never expect that they'll be allowed to choose someone who doesn't have rock-solid approval from the New York Times. And I personally know quite a bit about how you successfully challenge the party establishment, from the Tea Party movement in 2009 to Donald Trump. Many of us helped lead the charge back in 2016. Look, I wondered whether the GOP establishment would actually let Trump win. The only question is, how far will the Republican establishment go to kill off this guy who is the most popular of all the other candidates? And we're hearing about Trump staffers being blacklisted if they ever try to work again. Now, who has the bad tone now? Is it Trump or is it the GOP establishment that seems like it's pulling out every stop to try to stop him from getting this nomination? But of course, in the end, Trump supporters prevailed against the establishment in both parties. Our grassroots actually made a huge difference. They did it in 2016. And again, even after all they threw at Trump, he won in 2024. Now, that's not a slogan. That's real power to the people. But when Democrats think that you're not someone who they can control, your days may be numbered. Just ask Kyrsten Sinema, and then ask John Fetterman how many Democrat friends he has now on the Hill. There probably are some Democrats, I was thinking about this afternoon, who do want to stand up to the elites and the globalists in their party. But because their party hierarchy is still so strong, that may not be possible. I'd rather be in a party where people like J.D. Vance can get nominated and elected to the Senate from Ohio, as opposed to being a member of a party where the party elders have a veto over the primary voters in a state like Maine. The Platner saga should be a warning to every maverick Democrat out there. I don't care whether you're a socialist or a progressive, whatever you call yourself. If you're feeling cocky today about your future, remember this. You'll be in the game as long as they want you in the game. And that's the angle. Here with his...
Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube and catch full shows streaming now on Fox One.